join in, and then we'll get started in a couple minutes. If you've just joined, thanks for joining. We're going to get started in a couple minutes here. I'm seeing everyone starting to file in on the participants and attendees. So just give us a couple minutes and we'll get kicked off. Welcome everyone as you're joining. Your camera and your microphone have been muted. We'll get started in just a second here. Alyssa, just so you know, your microphone has not been muted. All right, well, welcome everyone to the Baylis Medical Campus webinar. So we are thrilled to have you all. Your camera has been automatically turned off and your microphone has been muted for the session. If you have questions as we go, please pop them into the chat. My colleagues will possibly be able to answer as we go, and if not, we will address your question in the Q&A at the end of the session. So first, a quick overview of what we have planned for you today. We have a lot of content to cover in our 45 minutes together. So to kick off, we are going to give you a brief intro into Baylis, so you know who we are and what we do. And then we're going to talk about our campus program, including asking some of our current co-ops what the program is like. And we have a little video to share with you on that topic, so make sure that you stick around for that. We will also address some of what you can expect from our culture, our social activities, our perks, and of course, a few of those nitty-gritty questions that you're probably wondering about, like working hours. Next, we'll be doing an interview with 3 of our directors from different areas of the business. We have our head of R&D with us today, as well as our head of quality and our product marketing director. And you'll get to hear how they approach having co-ops on their team, what co-ops bring to Baylis, and learn about co-ops who have really made an impact. So to help you with your applications, we'll also be talking about some tips and tricks around resumes and interviewing. We'll talk about guidelines to follow, as well as common mistakes and how to avoid them. And then we'll get into the Q&A. So please be sure to add your questions to the chat function as we go so you don't forget them. First off, let's get to know Baylis as a company. So Baylis was founded in Montreal in 1986 by Gloria Baylis, who was a registered nurse. And the company began as a Canadian importer and distributor of medical products. The company expanded shortly thereafter with the addition of Frank Baylis, who is Gloria Baylis's son, and with Chris Shaw. Frank and Chris graduated from the University of Waterloo, where they were studying electrical engineering, and they graduated in 1986. In 1995, the company began to focus on product development of medical products in addition to distribution. We've grown consistently since then, but the last few years have been particularly explosive. When I joined Baylis, which was just before the pandemic hit in January of 2020, we had just hit 600 employees, and today we are at 1,000. Baylis is proud to be awarded as one of Canada's best managed companies, which is a leading business award in Canada that's presented by Deloitte. Baylis is actually a gold standard winner of this designation, which means that we have won the award for 4 consecutive years. In addition, in 2020, Baylis Medical won the Employee Recommended Workplace designation, which is jointly awarded by the Globe and Mail and Murnau Sheppel, and it's an independent survey to employees. So the survey actually evaluates 4 key aspects of the business for a total health score. And the categories that it evaluates are physical, mental, work, and life. I love this award because it's directly based on feedback from our employees, and it speaks to the strength of the various programs and initiatives that we have. Now, today at Baylis, our products are sold all around the world, and Baylis seeks to be a world leader in conception, development, production, and the sale of state-of-the-art medical products. We focus in left heart access, and we have a portfolio of products that you can look through on our website. The most recent product we have launched is the Versa Cross, which has been very well received by physicians. The Versa Cross is actually a 3-in-1 solution, and there's been some discussion on Twitter by the physicians who use it. For instance, Dr. Suneet Mittal, who is a cardiologist and the director of electrophysiology for Valley Health Systems, which is in New York City, tweeted, "Kudos to @Baylis Medical for their commitment to making the transeptal puncture safer and more efficient. The Versa Cross system has been a game changer." Now, Baylis has 4 core values that drive the business, and those are technological leadership, corporate social responsibility, customer service, and employee development. Each quarter, 4 people or 4 teams are awarded in each core value, and the nominations come from peers or managers or colleagues. Anyone can be nominated and anyone can nominate. Co-ops have been nominated in the past and they have won. So I'd like to give you some examples of how we actually carry out these core values. And let's start off with corporate social responsibility, because I think it's incredibly important to so many of us. So Baylis is headquartered in Mississauga, and we're going to talk a little bit more about where our locations are in a bit. And earlier this year, it was awarded by the Mayor of Mississauga, Bonnie Crombie, for the COVID-19 Heroes Program, which recognizes businesses who contributed by helping the community during the pandemic. During the pandemic, Baylis did not lay off a single employee. And this was at a time when many employers were laying people off to deal with the effects of the pandemic. Baylis kept its entire workforce, and in fact, we've bounced back even stronger. This was not by accident. Our owners and our senior leadership were very set on not laying anyone off, and they took deliberate steps to make that happen. During this time, they also communicated really clearly with all employees, so everyone had peace of mind during what was a very trying time. In addition to this, Baylis hosted a mobile vaccine clinic, and that was open to all Baylis employees and family members, and it included paid time off to attend, so employees would be sure to have access to the vaccine in a way that was easy for them. On the front of employee development, Baylis offers several in-house training programs that are amazing learning and organizational effectiveness team run. For its full-time employees, which we very much hope our co-ops become after graduation, we offer a $1,000 a year tuition reimbursement annually. And that's for all employees. And it's to support in your personal growth and development. I am personally taking advantage of this right now, and I'm using it to further my education in my field. And I'm doing that 10 years after I first graduated from McMaster University. So that's on corporate social responsibility and employee development. And since we are working our way back up the list, I think, let's talk about customer service. So customer service sounds like it's an easy thing to achieve, but since we service doctors around the world, that's not always so simple. In our second quarter of this year, the award for customer service went to a member of our sales team who received a request at the last minute for a product that was needed for a procedure. The hospital was out of that particular product. And Jake, who is the sales rep, volunteered to get up very early that morning and drive 2 hours from New York City to Philadelphia to drop off a sheath that was needed just in time for the surgery that morning. And this was a specialty product for a patient that had run out of options. So finally, technological leadership. I can't give too many specific examples of this one because so often this award goes to a team or to an individual who's working on new devices, and that's the sort of thing that we have to keep a little bit under wraps. But what I can share is that the team who evaluates these awards, they ensure that they recognize people who are not just engineers. So folks who maybe have worked to implement a new software or use an already existing technology more thoroughly. In any case, it's easy for an organization to list the core values on their website, but Baylis does the hard work of living those core values every day. Now, Baylis has 4 main office locations. 3 are in Mississauga and 1 is in Montreal. You'll see the headquarters here are at 5825 Explorer Drive. And not pictured is our location on Satellite Drive, which is just around the corner from these locations. We do operate some functions and production lines out of that building as well. Depending on the role that you join us with, you could be in any of these buildings. That said, you might be wondering how you're going to get to the office. So if you drive, we have free parking at all of our buildings. If you don't drive, we have a number of smart commute options. And the smart commute program was actually born out of one of our core values, which is corporate social responsibility. So Baylis offers incentives like free electrical vehicle charging, reimbursement for public transit use in Montreal or in Mississauga, and quarterly draws for cyclists or walkers. But we also have our shuttle bus program that's really popular. So if you live on the TTC and that's easiest for you, you can pick up the shuttle bus from Kipling Station and it goes to all of our buildings. And it runs both in the morning and the evening. So it's a very easy option. Okay, we're going to get into our campus hiring program now. So first and foremost, I want to tell you that the goal of our co-op hiring program is to provide you with interesting and meaningful work in your field. We measure the success of our program by how many former co-ops join us full-time after graduation. In our experience, our program is a little bit special because of this. I really want to reiterate that last point because I think it's important if you're planning on seeking full-time work after graduation. Later today, we're going to be speaking with Rob Harrison, who is our Director of R&D. And earlier this year, Rob and I were discussing the campus program. Rob mentioned to me how successful our former co-ops go on to be when they join us after graduation from university. And it's what we've designed our program around. And it's why you'll start doing meaningful work with us from day one. And I know Rob's going to speak to that in a little bit. We love that most of our Baylis co-ops are with us for 8 months or 12 months. This length of time ensures that you can become integrated with our teams and become a valued part of the organization. Feedback from our past co-ops is that they're able to learn and develop their skill sets while at Baylis in real-world practical ways. And they get to carry on their learning from the classroom throughout their work. The work you do while you're at Baylis furthers our mission of serving patients. And those are focused and tangible contributions that you can make to impact people's lives around the world. Often our teams actually wait for their co-ops to start so they can kick off new projects. And that means you get to be part of a full life cycle. Finally, we ensure that you get exposure to all levels of the senior management. And this is both through our regular experience, your regular experience at Baylis, and through our orientation and onboarding processes. Okay, so now we have a short video that we've put together of 2 of our current co-ops discussing their experiences working at Baylis. So I'm just hearing from folks saying that there's no sound, I think, for the video. I'm just going to try this one more time. Okay, thanks folks for the feedback on the sound. I'm going to pause the video for a second and get this figured out. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to stop sharing for a quick second here.
Your next question is,
Hey everyone.
Today we're going to be answering some questions.
So just a quick pause now. Can everyone hear it that time? Do you mind speaking up in the chat if you can hear it? All good. Okay, wonderful. Let's try that one more time.
Questions about being a co-op at Baylis.
Hey, nice catch. First question, who are you?
So my name's Donna. I just finished third year at the University of Toronto, and now I'm working as an R&D engineer associate at Baylis. I'm in the cardiology department, and I'm currently on the packaging team.
Hi everyone, I'm Ala. I just finished my third year at U of T as well. I'm process engineering with the wireline team in cardiology, and I'm doing a 12 months internship.
Your next question is, why did you decide to apply to Baylis?
Baylis was one of the only companies that had both mechanical and biomedical engineering. Those are my interests. I'm in the bio and mechatronics stream at my university. I read up on Baylis and they had a bunch of benefits and like stuff about transportation and shuttles and all that stuff. So yeah, the core values were employee development, customer service, technological leadership, and corporate social responsibility.
Yes. Next question is, what was the onboarding experience like for you?
It was pretty great. This is the first job I had that was in research. And there were a lot of things that I wasn't sure about, like employee number, which you had to register, you had to give them your tax information, you had to give them a bunch of just setup things. Mm-hmm. And I would have a bunch of questions for the HR people who were heading it up, and they were great. They would answer me in like 1 to 2 days. And they're like, no rush, just have it done before this date, and they would give it to you like months in advance so you hadn't had enough time to do it. What transferable skills have you learned so far at Baylis? The cool thing about being in processing is that you get to do a lot of hands-on work with tools.
Same with R&D.
Yeah, we both come from like a really theoretically technical university, so we don't get to do that many hands-on things. So learning to use tools and learning what we can use them for, all of that stuff has been a really good thing to have. Mm-hmm. And also because Baylis is like IPO certified, it's essentially a certification for our manufacturing process. Because of that, you get to learn a lot about like documentation processes that are required. And it's not fun all the time, but it's really important, especially if you're going to do something in manufacturing or sort of like manufacturing industry.
Oh, is this the last one?
Yeah, this is the last one for me.
This is a
thick boys.
What advice do you have?
Get your soft skills done first. A lot of people want to shoot for the moon and design the next big thing that the company's going to use, and that's a great thing to have, but I think you want to have your organizational skills, your timing skills, all of that you want to have down. And I would say the documentation, like we were talking about before, like if people can trust you to do documents, you can make as many tools as you want, send them in, and then they should be accepted.
Another tip I've found that has been really helpful is just treat this as a learning experience and keep asking questions. Sometimes like people get scared and they don't ask questions because they're like, oh, I'm just a co-op and you know I don't know that much, but people are so nice here and people are so willing to actually teach you things, so you have to take advantage of that.
So your second question. What do you enjoy most about your role?
Ever since coming to Baylis, I feel like I'm constantly learning, and the work that we're doing is actually pretty interesting, I'd say. I feel like for most like students, co-ops, or just new employees, you can get into the trap of just being assigned the same like tedious, like not that cool work just because you're new and you don't really have that much background experience. But at Baylis, so far, everything we've been doing is really cool, and I've been able to see so many different projects. Even though I'm on the packaging team, I've learned so much about cardiology and like clinical applications and things like that. So
they have like seminars where doctors come and talk to you about like how the heart works. And
so yeah, and I like know about all the products and stuff. And once again, like everybody's so willing to just teach you things. So obviously that helps with the learning experience.
Yeah, exactly. What has been most rewarding?
Okay, for me personally, what's most rewarding about working in a medical device company is the fact that everything you're doing is helping patients. You're helping, like in Baylis's case, like you're literally helping save people's lives. And all the Baylis products are used in life-saving procedures.
Exactly.
And actually, Baylis was just recently awarded, I think it's called the COVID Heroes Award from the city of Mississauga for helping during the pandemic and things like that. So obviously, everything we're doing, big or small, at the end goes towards making people's lives better. So I think that's rewarding.
What is Baylis culture like? Oh, this is a good one.
Oh, this is a good one. I love Baylis's culture. Like, I think that's what makes Baylis so much better than other companies, not gonna lie. Like, everybody here is so friendly. And I think the fact that everybody is always willing to just learn and be curious and stuff is the reason why everyone's so happy here.
Exactly. One of the great things though is after work activities, they have like a bunch of, right now they're doing soccer, and I heard in the winter they're going to be doing volleyball and that kind of stuff.
As you can tell, like, Baylis has a very social culture. Like, we have a lot of clubs and stuff. It's not just work. It's very
professional, but it's not all about the work.
Exactly. There's a very big like work and social life balance, I guess.
Exactly.
So that's all we have for you guys. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. If you have any questions, and if you get hired at Baylis in the next few months,
we'll see you then.
Come say hi.
Yes.
You'll make me look like a celebrity. That'll be fun.
That's honestly like goal right there.
And even if you're not sure, apply. See what it's like. It's a great company.
All right. Bye.
Thank you for listening. Bye.
All right. Well, thank you so much to our co-ops who were game to participate in that. All right. Okay, so let's talk about social and well-being activities at Baylis. So at Baylis, we have a wide range of social and cultural events and clubs. Specifically for our co-ops, we have our campus ambassador program. So before you even start at Baylis, you'll be reached out to by your campus ambassador. And they're a full-time permanent member at Baylis, and they have volunteered for this role. So they're excited to meet with you, they're motivated, and they hope that you want to engage with them as well. Their role is to organize social events, learning opportunities, and to be a resource to you during your time at Baylis. Through your social events with your campus ambassador and your cohort, we hope you get to know all of your fellow co-ops and that you build great lifelong connections. Our campus ambassadors also facilitate a Zoom chat where you can connect online easily during the workday to ask questions or to just chat about your day. Another event that I strongly encourage co-ops to sign up for is our Coffee Connections. And this is facilitated by our wonderful human resources business partner of People and Culture, who connects you with 2 people a month that you would otherwise not get to know. And you get to set up a time to meet with them on either Zoom or in person, over coffee or over tea, and just chat. And it can be a great way to learn about other areas of the business or just to meet new people. And you'll notice that there's a few points on here about well-being sessions and meditation. This is because Baylis believes mental health is just as important as physical health and provides resources accordingly. Now, finally on here is my personal favorite, which is the Inclusion and Diversity Book Club. We had several great co-op participants for the last few books that we read, and I was very sad to see them go. The I&D Book Club selects different books to read, and we work through them just a few chapters at a time, and we have bi-weekly sessions, usually on Thursdays or Fridays. So these are not all of the perks. The perks you see here are not all of the perks of working at Baylis, but it's just a few to give you an idea of the company. And similarly, on our last slide, that's not all of our social and cultural and well-being events, just a few to give you a sense of what it's like working at Baylis. In addition to the on-site gyms, we also have foosball tables in most of our buildings, and there are some tournaments that happen that can get pretty heated. We also have outdoor patios where you can work or just relax, and we offer Perkopolis to all of our employees. It can be a great site to check out just before you book a vacation to see if there are any deals to score. And finally, for this slide, everyone at Baylis raves about KitchenMate. KitchenMate is a meal service that provides very high quality breakfast, lunch, and dinner options, and it caters to all sorts of dietary restrictions. So our office staff are expected to follow our hybrid model, which is 3 days in the office and 2 days at home. The days that you're in the office are typically decided as a team. So your team will all be in together as a group. In some cases, you can pick your days that you're in the office, but in all situations, you and your manager would decide together what your schedule would be. But your first day as a co-op will be spent in the office attending co-op orientation. You'll get to spend the day with my team, and we'll get you set up to begin your time at Baylis. And on this day, you're given all of your IT assets, like your laptop, which you would take to work from home. We have a desk hoteling model for most of our staff. Some people do have an assigned permanent workspace where you can sign out your workstation on an app called Nspace, and you can sign out your workstation up to 2 weeks before you go in. Now you'll also notice there is a point on here about flexible start and end times. This is something that Baylis provided even prior to the pandemic, so folks can work with the schedule that works best for them. And depending on the role that you're in, you may be in the office more, especially if you're directly supporting a production line. Okay, so now we're going to meet some of our directors. So first up, we have Rob. So Rob, I'll invite you to throw on your video and unmute yourself now. So welcome, Rob. I'm going to give you a little introduction here. So Rob has been with Baylis for 16 years and has been in his current role as a director of R&D since July 2019. Rob oversees all of R&D at Baylis Medical and has a huge team of 7 direct reports and 72 indirect reports and counting. Rob's always hiring underneath him. So welcome, Rob. So I'm going to start us off here with some questions for you. So first off, what co-op positions are you most looking forward to filling this coming May?
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca. Yeah, so we've got a number of co-op positions that we'll be filling in May, and it's really right across the breadth of work that we do in R&D. So we're going to have positions open in our packaging team that Donna just spoke to, our technical writing group, and across our many product development teams. And so that includes product development opportunities in our sheath and dilator groups, our groups that design the RF devices that are used to apply energy to tissue, as well as our capital equipment team, where we both support the life cycle of our RF generator. And what's kind of really exciting, I think, about the year to come is that we're going to embark on the development of a new RF generator. And so and I think we'll talk about it a bit more, but co-ops are going to feature in the development of all of those things that I've just spoken to.
That's amazing. Okay, so I guess feeding into that, what kind of work do the co-ops on your team enjoy doing the most?
Yeah, so I'd say it's sort of no different than with our full-time staff, where sort of different engineers ultimately have slightly different interests and tend to sort of gravitate to the work that probably compels them the most. And the video was cool. Ala sort of talked about how both biomed and mechanical drew him to Baylis. And that's certainly a sweet spot at Baylis, but I think, we have a diversity of different interests that we sort of have work that's suited to. But, at Baylis, there's the opportunity to work in everything from, CAD modeling and designing sort of in our CAD tools, hands-on prototyping, Ala referenced sort of development of tooling on the process engineering side. So that could be both on the device side, on the process engineering side. There's a great deal of hands-on bench testing, so evaluating our products, evaluating our competitors' products. On the software side, as well as the mechanical side, a lot of debugging. One of our, I think, all engineers' favorite things to do, we call it make it break testing. And the job is to make it break and figure out what's the mode of failure, and then start to trace that back to say, hey, if that ever happened in the clinic, what would that mean? And is there anything we can do from a design standpoint or a manufacturing standpoint to make sure that it doesn't happen? And so, just really great to flex your sort of design skills and your problem solving skills. And then beyond that, often there's elements of literature review, certainly documentation. We're a very detailed oriented and regulated industry, and everybody ultimately has to understand how we, record the work that we do. And I would just note maybe additionally that for our really biomedically focused engineers, we participate in labs where we engage with physicians under different settings. Some of them are at different hospitals or at universities in the GTA, and we interact directly with physicians to understand how our new designs or our existing designs are performing. And just depending on the opportunities that you have with us, if you're part of the team that's at the point in the project lifecycle that's happening, it's likely that you'll have an opportunity to engage at that level, of really at the kind of front lines of biomedical engineering with our customers. So that's, I think, always a highlight.
Okay, awesome. And so who do your co-ops typically work with on your team? How much exposure do they get to the rest of the team?
Yeah, so the way that it works at Baylis is that when we look at the projects that we're running, our resource planning includes our co-op students. And so we plan our project teams to have, and not all the teams have co-op students, but we plan our projects to include co-op as part of the resourcing. And so when you join, you're part of a team, a project team, and a broader functional team who's going to be a part of the team, whether that's driving product development or maybe on the process engineering side, like Alice spoke to, driving process improvements or developing processes to fabricate our devices. And so as such, you're going to work with both junior and senior level engineers, and you're going to work interdepartmentally with the other departments that we collaborate with. So our project management office, quality teams, our regulatory teams, supply chain teams. So really, you're part of the mix, I guess, is kind of the bottom line.
That's amazing. Okay. So what do you think or how do you think our co-op program gives students a different experience than they get at other co-op programs?
Yeah, so I think, beyond what we've already talked about, one of the coolest things I think about working at Baylis is that really a vast majority of the projects that you would work on at Baylis are going to make it to market. And so I would say that like over 90% of the co-ops that we would have had through in the last 15 years, they would have put their fingerprints, if you will, on a device that has ultimately made it to market. And they might have done that early in the ideation phase, or they might have done that in the test phase, or as we scale up, developing our production lines. But, everyone ultimately, I think, will have that kind of cool satisfaction of saying, hey, I worked on a piece of the development of that, and now I see it's launched and it's making an impact in the lives of patients. And so that is not totally unique to Baylis, but I think in our geography, the opportunity to do that here is as good as you'll get in the GTA.
Absolutely. Okay. And then last question for you, Rob. Can you tell me about a co-op who went on to join us full time after graduation and the career that they had with us?
Yeah. So we've been hiring co-ops, particularly in R&D, for about 18 years. So we have a long history of having folks join us initially as co-ops. And perhaps most famously is that our vice president of operations joined Baylis as a co-op about 18 years ago. She took roles in research and development, quality, and then ultimately operations, and now is truly one of our top tier senior leaders in the entire organization. But beyond that, we've had co-ops go on to do great things both inside and outside the company. And more than one of our co-ops has gone on to start their own medical device companies in the GTA, successful medical device company startups. Many have gone on to med degrees or other, sort of professional degrees, beyond engineering. But, the thing, as you mentioned, that is probably most exciting for me is I was just doing a tally before this webinar, and of my engineering staff, which is about 60, 15 of my 60 staff, so about a quarter of them are former co-op students with R&D. And really that's at every level inside of R&D. So from our senior engineers to some of our more recent hires. And so the co-op program has really led to the growth of R&D and created a really, really strong team here.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Rob. I know you're going to stick around a little bit afterwards for the Q&A if possible, but we'll move on now to our next director. Thanks again, Rob. So we're going to welcome Ellen. So Ellen, if you don't mind joining us, hi there. Okay, so I'll do a quick little intro for you, Ellen, so everyone knows who you are. So Ellen has been with Baylis for 13 years, and she has been a director in her current role, as a director of quality since September 2018. Ellen oversees our entire quality department, and it's a huge department. It comprises 5 direct reports and 103 indirect reports. And Ellen comes from my alma mater, McMaster University. So welcome, Ellen.
Thanks, Rebecca. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. So to start us off, what kind of work do your co-ops get to do?
So co-ops in the quality department could support all sorts of functions within the department. We have engineering functions as well as more associate roles that help with regulations and improvements to our system. So the co-op could be helping us with research on emerging areas of regulations, could be helping us with testing and investigations with issues that come up, or even coming up with new processes or procedures and training the rest of the organization in those new processes and regulations. The co-ops also generally have at least one project that we assign to them so that they can independently own and work that aspect of our system.
Okay, awesome, thank you. And how long does it take for co-ops to really kind of get into the groove and start adding value to their teams?
I think it depends on the person and the person that joins the organization. I have had co-ops that just had the right skills and attitude to immediately start adding value, in their first 2 weeks right after onboarding. Some people might take longer. I think that a key important skill in order to add value as quickly as possible is just to have the willingness to try to get into it on your own, figure things out, and become self-sufficient wherever you can. But as a caveat to that, on the other side, I think one of the co-ops in the video mentioned, make sure you're asking questions. If you're just sitting around figuring things out for a week and kind of wasting time when you could have just asked, like, people are more than willing to just answer, how are you going to do this, and get you on the right path to make your work and your life a lot easier.
Absolutely. Okay. So can you tell me about a co-op who stands out to you? Maybe someone who joined us after graduation and the career that they went on to have with us?
Yeah, we've had several co-ops later join the quality department, similarly to Rob. Probably not quite as many as R&D. I think R&D has quite the army of co-ops that helps out on a regular basis. In particular, I remember an engineer who joined us from Waterloo, and Waterloo has several 4-month co-op programs where you do it over the course of 4 years. The thing that really stood out to me about him is that he had a really great attitude for learning, and he was really responsible and accountable for the work that we assigned him. So we were able to just give him a project. He could independently work on it. I could trust him to just ask me questions when he didn't know what he was doing or whatnot. And that made him super productive during the year. And, every subsequent time that he came back, he was even more productive and, was just as good as like a full-time engineer, if not better in some instances. So it was really great to have him join the team permanently and really, bring up the level of the work that we were doing. Yeah, he's no longer on the team, but working in another medical device company in the US, still keeps in touch with the team. We love working with them.
Amazing. Okay. And you kind of spoke to this a little bit, but I'd love to hear what makes someone a really great co-op for your team.
Yeah, specifically for my team, I think it's actually, I think in general, a mindset for learning. We don't expect, like, you are kind of a new person, you don't have a lot of experience in a role or in your career yet. So we don't expect you to know how to do everything that we're asking you to do. But you do need to be receptive to actually learning what it is that you need to do and understanding why you're doing it and what the work is. And if you're willing to put in that effort to actually understand the work, actually getting the work done is a lot easier. And, having that humbleness to understand that you are learning so that you can ask the right questions and, make sure you're getting the right feedback to make sure you're doing the right thing.
Absolutely. Okay. And you've been with Baylis for 13 years. And in that time, you've worked both in R&D and in quality. What is it that you love about the quality department?
Yeah, I mean, R&D was great. You do get to work on all the products and get really hands-on in development of the product. So that was a really great time in my career. What I really liked about moving into quality was just you really do get to work with every single aspect of the business now, because the quality system feeds into everything and kind of controls everything to ensure that the products that we get to the patients in the end are good, and that we meet all the regulations to ensure that we continue staying in business. So I get to work with every single aspect of the organization, understand all of the workflows and processes in the organization, help to improve all of those processes and workflows so that the company continues to grow and thrive over the years.
Okay, amazing. And we are getting a little bit short on time, so I'm going to move us on now to Will. So thank you so much for your time, Ellen. It's been a real pleasure chatting with you. So now over to Will. So welcome, Will. Just a quick introduction. So Will has been with Baylis for 2.5 years, and he oversees all of product marketing at Baylis, where he reports directly into our VP of marketing. Will is an engineer by trade and by education, and he's gone on to do his MBA from York University. So welcome, Will.
Thanks everyone. Great to be here.
All right, so first off, I feel like product marketing is one of those amazing areas that maybe not everyone is completely familiar with. Can you tell us what is product marketing and what does your team do?
Yeah, it's a great point. So we have a team of 3, and we do a lot of there's upstream and downstream marketing. A lot of upstream is really about what does the future of devices look like in the next 5 years in terms of the market. So working closely with Rob's team in looking at what makes sense for that. So I work close with my counterpart on that side. But then we look at products that are already in the canon, ready to get to be launched, and we develop brochures, competitive intelligence, just a whole slew of things around getting things market ready, commercial ready, and really educating the market on why they should be using our products over other products. And Baylis is all about the safety and clinical benefits of improving care. And so we really want to emphasize those. And so we work closely with different departments to make that happen.
Okay, amazing, thank you. Now, when you think about bringing a co-op onto your team, what work are you excited to see them engage with?
There's so much work. It's get in the deep end right away. And as Ellen had mentioned, just really dive in and go beyond. We work 9 to 5, but then there's also our physicians. We have webinars that are sometimes at 5 to 8 p.m. or 8 to 9 p.m. And the more you have a learning mentality and the willingness to go out and read different articles, clinical studies, watch those webinars, even from other companies, the more you'll succeed at Baylis. Not to say that you're always working, but there's always opportunity to take in more information beyond just the core hours that you would typically work.
Okay, amazing. And you joined Baylis 3 years ago. So what is it that attracted you to the company to begin with? And what is it that keeps you here?
It's a great question. It's really the people. So I've been in a few different places. I actually graduated into the 2008 recession, which was not fun. It took a while to get into the workforce after that. And I was in aerospace. So you can really move around from, even if I saw a question on chemical engineering, we actually have people from all different worlds of engineering. And you don't have to be an engineer to be in marketing or in different places, but it does help in some regards too. So you have the ability to move around, and what do we look for in marketing is just people that are really willing to learn and get their hands really deep in there and understand the market, understand what drives physicians to use the products, and help our sales team. Our sales team is our customer really at the end of the day.
Amazing. Okay, well, thank you, Will. I am going to cut us a little bit short here because we've got some more content to get through and we're running up against time. But thank you so much for joining us and for sharing that with us. Okay, so thank you again to all of our directors. Now let's talk about the application process. Let's talk about your resume and your interview. So when you're writing a resume at this stage in your career, 1 page is likely going to be enough. 2 would be the absolute most I would expect to see. So make sure that you're keeping your writing clear and concise and on point. Always be thinking about the reader and what they're going to be looking for, and write to communicate what you want them to hear. Proofread everything thoroughly, and I cannot stress enough how much that means not just using spell check. Make sure that you're going through everything with a fine-tooth comb, and highlight results or things that you've accomplished. Now, if you're light on work experience, this can come from volunteer work or from academic experience. If it's relevant to the position that you're applying to, you can list relevant courses. The most common formatting for a resume is chronological, and this is what we would recommend. It keeps your resume clear and it's easy to read, which is what you want. If you're tailoring each resume to a specific company, make sure you do that consistently. It's not a great look to send a resume to a company with another company's name on it because you forgot to edit it each time. And the same applies to positions. If you're applying to positions that are in diverse areas, make sure you have a resume for each area. For instance, if you're applying for positions in corporate communications and in human resources, those resumes would likely need to look very different. So be sure to apply, or make sure that when you apply, you have your current contact information. So use your mobile phone number and your email address that you actually check the most. Your address will also be needed on the resume for the purposes of putting an offer letter together, hopefully for you in the future. So be sure to include that. So let's talk about interviewing. I know that interviewing can be stressful and most people are nervous when they're interviewing. So to make it easier on yourself, make sure you are prepared. Assuming that it will be an online interview, check your video and internet connection beforehand. Log in 5 minutes early and ensure that you are presentable. This does not mean that you need to be wearing a full suit. Business casual is usually fine. But do your research on the company. You should know the basics from the website and be able to speak to them accordingly. Listen closely to the questions that your interviewer asks and then answer that question. Be sure that you're clear on why you want the position and how you hope you're going to contribute. And remember that this is a two-way street. And lastly, engage with the interviewer and ask them questions based on what they shared with you, not just a list of canned questions or things that you developed ahead of time. So before we wrap up, let's address a few common interviewing mistakes. So not knowing the company or asking questions that you could have found out through some basic research is a pitfall for some. Be sure that you are thinking just as much about what the company is looking for as you are about what they want to see. It's truly a two-way street. Now, assuming that you're doing video interviews, make sure that you have a clear background. A white wall is ideal and that it's not a noisy area. If you're going to use headphones, beware that those can often create poor sound quality, so you may be asked to take them out or to switch them out. So be prepared for that. And lastly, make sure you leave the interview sharing your interest level with the interviewer. You don't want to be unclear on that. Now, before we move into the Q&A, a quick reminder to give us a follow on social media. Our Instagram is particularly targeted at our current employees or future employees. Twitter is focused more so to physicians. If you're not able to stay for the Q&A, thank you for attending and we hope to see you applying soon. And now we're going to jump over to the Q&A. So let me see here. Okay, so I see that Arjuna has gone through and answered many of our questions. So thank you, Arjuna, for doing that. Does anyone have any questions that we were not able to answer just yet? Okay, I don't think we have anything coming in there that we haven't already been able to answer, and we are over time. So I will end it here and thank everyone for their ability to attend. Oh, we've had a couple come in. Oh, okay, so here's one that says, what type of club experience do recruiters normally look at? So I'm assuming by that you mean experience like with social activities. Is that sort of what you're driving at there? If that's the case, if you have experience that's relevant to the position, like let's say that you're applying to an R&D role and you've been in an engineering club on campus, you can definitely put that on your resume and that can be helpful. And we have a question here for William. So if Will wants to hop on.
Yeah, sure, I'll come on quick. Marketing in med device is slower than consumer goods, but faster than development of and marketing of pharma. So we actually have someone on our team that came from pharma and says we're a lot faster paced. And I kind of chuckle because I also have friends in consumer goods and I'm like, you guys move way faster than we do on some things. So it's all relative.
Okay, amazing, thank you. So our next question here, for interest in starting in May of 2022, when do you recommend applying? So Kayla, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Apply as soon as the positions are posted. So depending on your university, it may be posted directly through your university's portal, in which case, please apply as soon as you see it. And if your university has said to you, no, we don't have a portal, you apply directly with the company. All of our postings will be up by October 4th on our website for you to take a look through. So we actually do the recruitment and hiring of that through the month of October and sometimes into November, even for starting in May. Okay. So what is the normal application screening process like? I'm sure there must be so many students applying for a position. So thank you so much for this question. So we're very fortunate, we get a lot of applicants. but we do have a lot of positions to fill, so don't let that deter you. So typically you're going to send in your application, you're going to get a phone call from someone on my team, and then we will book in a time for you to have an interview with one of the hiring managers for the position. It's typically a pretty short process actually for the interviewing with us, and we would then extend you an offer letter for the start date. Do we have any other questions? What co-op positions are open for January? So for January, we will have a number of postings that will be available on our website. It will indicate on there, or if it's on your university's career portal, it will indicate on there as well. We tend to hire more for May starts, but there are a few January starts. So we have a question here from someone: is a medical representative allowed to enter in the operation theater or showcase company products? So I think this is a question probably more so for Will or for Rob, if I give you to answer this.
I'm sure Rob's experienced it too, but we are allowed to go in the operation theater at times, and you have to be invited in. There's a whole protocol around it. Yeah, we're allowed to go in and showcase company products. We're more there as consultants and giving our input on what the best use would be. Ultimately, it's the physician's decision on how they use products and what products they use, but we often guide what's governed by our regulatory and quality and engineering procedures on how best to use the product.
Okay, amazing. We had a question come in on a different forum here that says, for those in life sciences, how can they navigate into positions at Baylis? It seems catered mainly to engineers. So first of all, I will say we have positions across all different departments, so it's not just engineers that we hire for in our co-ops. Rob, do you have anything you want to add about that, about background in life sciences? Are there any positions that you would be looking at for that?
Yeah, maybe I'll throw to Ellen. So the short answer is yes. So although we hire a lot of engineers, in my group it would be we would look for technical writing co-ops, but I'll throw to Ellen because there'd be a diversity of different positions she would have as well.
Yeah, so we do have quite a few engineering co-ops, as Rob mentioned, but we also do hire in more of the quality assurance associate type realms or regulatory assurance associates, which would be more of a life science stream. Also, we are always looking at the ways that we can get a variety of backgrounds and experiences just to enrich the way that we work at Baylis. So even for some of the kind of engineering associate roles, we would look at life science candidates if they have the appropriate experience to really help us to drive value in that particular area.
Well, just quickly, we also have a medical education team, and I'm actually looking at one of our past co-ops who now is with us full time. So we have a whole breadth of people, not just engineers here.
Yes. So summary is, please apply even if you're not an engineer. We have openings. Okay, are there any? So we have a question here. Do you hire PhD students in R&D engineering? I'm assuming you mean full-time and not as a co-op, but Rob?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so certainly we look at sort of different levels of education. There's not a huge bias towards whether you are coming out of undergrad of a master's or PhD. I think obviously postgrad experience is useful. It teaches a bunch of skills that are applicable in the workplace, but having that kind of experience isn't mandatory. And I don't know, Rebecca, if there's anything you wanted to add, like if we have other hiring programs beyond
Yes.
co-op. Yeah, that may be where that question's coming from.
Yeah, and there's another question in here that I'm seeing. I know Arjun is answering it, and I'll let him do that as well. But yes, we do hire folks straight out of their PhD or out of their master's program for various roles, full-time. We call them new grad positions. So sometimes you'll see them posted on our website as new grad positions, or sometimes they'll be posted and just have the experience listed will just be that you need your PhD or your master's degree. So that does happen as well. Okay. And then what do you consider a successful co-op experience with Baylis? So are you talking about, I'm going to assume that you're asking that from the perspective of applying. What kind of experience do we look for? Really, we're not terribly focused on the type of experience that you have. We're more focused on the program that you're going through, the education that you have, the willingness to learn, the attitude that you bring to it. Ellen, is there anything you want to add to that?
I was just going to say, on the other hand, of like what I would consider someone having had a successful co-op time at Baylis, I think that in those cases we would be able to kind of get mutual value out of the time that we've had. So the co-op's been able to really help us to drive forward projects, innovations, improvements to our system during the time that they've had. And at the same time, they've been able to really learn and become, productive members of society through the experience that they've gotten through Baylis. And I know that I personally feel like it's successful if the co-op can then, either come back to Baylis and really thrive in the role that they get, or even moving on to another company and be able to show that they've gotten that value to that other company. Those are both considered successful to me.
Absolutely. Okay, so next question we have here is, once hired by the company, can we change positions internally while working full-time? For example, from quality to marketing. So short answer to this is yes. We really encourage people to develop their careers at Baylis. Employee development is one of our core values. And so along with that, we do have a very clear history of allowing folks and encouraging folks to apply for other positions internally. We have a couple of rules about it, and once you were hired, you would become privy to those, just about time and role and being successful in your previous role before you move over. But very basic answer to that is yes, absolutely. We do encourage people to, once they're at Baylis, to look at other opportunities for them. Okay, great question about the new grad position. So the question here is, how many years of experience is required for a new grad position? Is it possible for someone with 1 or 2 years of experience to apply for a new grad position? Thank you so much for asking this question. New grad positions have 0 experience. That's what we're looking for. So we're looking at someone who's coming straight out of school. If you have 1 to 2 years of experience, then you would be applying for one of our roles that has that requirement of 1 or 2 years of experience. Question for marketing for Will. What will those in the marketing department get a chance to have a global site? So I assume
Yeah, we do. We're mainly focused on Canada and US, but as Rob and Ellen know, and they've been involved too, is we work closely with the Japanese market, European market, etc. So there's definitely a global site, and even complaints probably come in from everywhere, right, Ellen? Like we as you saw in the slide presentation early on, we sell products everywhere, and so you do touch the global scale at some point. And one thing I wanted to mention, based on Rob's point, I forgot to mention is, we do get to launch a lot of great products here, and they scale up really fast. Like, you're not talking about just like 10 products being used next week. You're talking about 1,000 next month, right? And so that's a pretty neat experience on a global scale as well.
Okay, well, I think I'm going to wrap it up there because I've kept all of you folks for 15 minutes longer than I said that I would. And just one last question we'll have here is, pharma sales and marketing experience applicable in the medical device industry?
Great.
It can be, yes. Sorry, go ahead, Will.
Great. It can be. I don't know in detail what pharma sales is part of, but it would definitely be seen as valuable that you have some just how to sell. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, thank you so much to everyone for all of your time and for participating with us today. It's been a pleasure to chat with you all. And thank you again to our directors for their time as well. All right, thanks guys, bye-bye.